The other thing you're going to have is probably broken tailbones, because we're only going to end up with like an inch of padding back here. How do you want to do this? I think you're better and stronger than you think you are.
Hey everyone, welcome back to drybonesgarage. This video is a part of a series where my dad and I take a 63 corvair and turn it into a hot rod. In this episode we discuss plans for the upholstery and create a template for the console, as well as some other things. So I hope you all enjoy that.
Sit. Tall hump. Reconfigured floor. This seat is not going to fit where it did. And the ones coming out of the caravan, those farther back 60-40 splits, aren't going to work either. How do you feel about elevating this and maybe narrowing it a little bit so we can put a little armrest in here? And we can also conceal the anchors for the 3-point seat belts.
Wait, so the seats would be lifted even higher than they are now?
This seat would be sitting right about where it is. Or this backrest would. But we'd be putting foam on it, take the steel out and put foam on it, and then make foam pads we'll probably end up cutting these out and then creating some sort of a something that'll fit underneath here and either bolt and bolt, or I don't know, we'll have to figure that out. Maybe a couple of hooks in the back and then have it bolt just underneath the seat cushion and have the cushion come out just a little bit proud. Kind of like it does in the back seats of the HHR. You know, where those little bolts, they got a little flange and then you just bolt right into the back of the footwell. What I'm thinking is we'll build pedestals, maybe narrow this frame when we reupholster this, but we'll just put some pedestals in and then we can put our seatbelt anchors in somewhere right about the back of the door, and then we'll come up with an armrest, probably something like what the Impala had. If you remember going to the show in that last summer.
I remember it had black interior.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember too much about it. The armrest
kind of curved around to the door. We'll do something like that, maybe put some courtesy lights in, make the car a little more posh. That way we can anchor a 3-point belt down here. Then we've got to put something up in here to anchor them. But we need to kind of figure out, nail down what we're doing with that actually. I think we're pretty well nailed down already. It's just a matter of deciding where that anchor needs to go inside the framing of the roof up here. And then make those pieces and weld them in. You're good with that idea? The back of the seat's going to be exposed a little bit in the window. Granted, if we're cutting it to section it side to side, we can section it top to bottom too. But I don't know that I'm necessarily keen on that. This actually is kind of nice. But maybe I'm weird. Your call.
Is that all we can do?
There's all kinds of things we can do. The question is what do you want to do? This is what I'm suggesting. I think once the seat cushion's in here, this will actually be probably right about right. Road trips are going to be hard in this thing for more than 2. I think we might actually want that seat elevated. I think. What do you think?
I don't want people to bonk their heads on...
I think you're kind of screwed there, the way the car is built. You're going to be fine in the front. You better be short sitting in the back.
Yeah.
Simple as that. That or just... And you're fine. Are you okay with the idea of this setting higher in the car? Because you want this to fold down, right?
I want what to fold down?
You want the seat back to be able to fold down so you have a package shelf back here. That's why we kept that little pocket open and didn't take that right through to the trunk and close it out here.
I remember that.
Because we were going to open all of that up, but you wanted to keep that as kind of a semi-hidden private package shelf, if I recall.
I guess we're going to have to do that then.
Okay. So we want this higher.
I guess.
Okay. So we'll lay it flat, figure out what heights we need to have our pedestals at, and we'll have to start fabbing those up.
I'm not too happy about it, but... I don't like the idea of people banging their heads.
The other thing you're going to have is probably broken tailbones, because we're only going to end up with like an inch of padding back here.
Okay.
Or two. I mean, we can do that. Well, I wouldn't say broken, but if we went with a much smaller, highly dense foam and just only had like a couple inches back here, again, it's going to be a very stiff seat. And that's all going to translate right to the tailbone if the car starts hitting hard chop, Granted, I don't know how stiff this thing is actually going to be. It's going to be a lot stiffer than a G-body, because that's all cargo S10, cargo F-body. And we've already cut the springs in the back. I don't know if we're going to cut the ones in the front or more out of the back. This thing does have a slight rake as it sits. It might get more pronounced or less as, we start loading this thing up with more pieces and parts and components. I guess there's that option. We could build a much smaller seat and then just have like a vinyl cover over the tunnel here or something. Cushion, armrest, and then this will fold flat on top of the armrest, or I'm not sure what we'll have to do there. That's something we'll have to figure out. But if we have a plan and we know kind of what we're building too, this is why I was asking you to pull out your pencils and kind of draw what you wanted, kind of like these seats and whatnot. Do we want to replicate this? What do you want to do with that? We're kind of hitting that point, kiddo. You got to make some decisions here. There's still more fabrication to do in here, but it's all kind of based on how we're going to build this out. And we kind of need to get that done. We need to decide whether or not you want to cut the dash or cut that duct. I'm inclined to cut the dash. It's going to be tucked up underneath, and at least in the back of my head, we're going to build a console out for the car. That's going to hide the parking brake, and I shouldn't say hide it, but house it, and then give you a little something to put coins. I don't think we're going to put cup holders in it or anything. But how do you want to do this? We're going to leave it elevated?
I guess, yeah.
Okay, do you want to narrow it or shorten it? Or do you want to just kind of leave it kind of the factory dimensions? We might have to section it side to side just to get room in for the armrests. Or we can do just a little pod, maybe, or leave the seatbelt anchor open. That's not going to be pretty.
Narrow it for elbow rests?
If we put armrests in, they probably land right about where actually. If we could get away with that. Maybe we could do that, just build a little itty-bitty something that sticks out a couple inches, maybe even with the sill, and then these can bolt right to it, and then we'll put a little pad over the top or something. That'd give us enough for the anchor points that wouldn't interfere with the window cranks. Granted, it's going to be vice. There's just not going to be room that way, but I'm actually not bad with that idea. I'm okay with that idea. We'll just have to make these bolt in somehow and then figure out how we want to transition into, if we want to just bring them up 45 of them or try and emulate that curve like what's in the Impala, or how we want to do. But we'll build those pedestals and they can serve, dual purpose, and then we can leave this alone. Just leave it absolutely factory. Good with that? Okay. We have a plan. We have two plans. Good. I was thinking for a while putting buckets in here and have the console run all the way to the back, and then try and get a speaker grill out of an Impala, that little center.
Yeah.
I thought that would have looked so cool, and then just have everything hard mounted into the car, but that kind of went away when you said you wanted the fold down seat in the package shelf. you want to try and mimic this? Or do you want to do something different?
I like this idea.
So what we'll have to do is, I've got most of the stuff in our cart. We'll have to actually take some of the vinyl and some muslin and stitch this into a similar pattern like this into the material,
Yeah.
and do the same up here, sew them together, and then sew in flat panels. We'll have to adjust everything, because what we'll end up doing here is actually, I think, gluing foam to this. I think we're going to have to make seat pans for the back seats for the car,
Yeah.
and then we'll just make new covers for the seats for the front that will actually glue to the existing, and that way we should be able to keep the foam, keep the heated seats if you want them. I've got the wiring for that. We just have to figure out where to hide the switch and put it in the car, or come up with one that looks like it belongs in the car and then put it someplace that's not jumping out at you. So it'll have like one luxury item anyways. You'll have heated seats. So we want to clean this up. We'll take this in as our model. I'm not bringing rat pee stink into the house. We'll clean this up, strip this all out, and I'll get that foam ordered, and we'll start figuring it out. It's kind of amazing how plush and comfy these things were when they were relatively fresh. Looking at this, you wouldn't think so.
I remember hearing a story. It was a long time ago. Somebody in the comments was talking about how when they were younger, they used to have one of these, or their friends did, or something like that, and how...
I think we've had several viewers mention that
Yeah.
they've either had or owned, or do.
They, and how the little, what are they called? The little metal emblem thingies would burn their skin in the middle of summer when they...
I don't remember that comment, but I remember thinking that those, man, would sizzle. So I don't imagine you want to even attempt trying to put those back into the upholstery.
I don't know.
I know we're missing some of them. The 64 does not have them, so we can't scavenge from there. And the funny thing is, I think that was a more nicely trimmed car when it was new. We don't even have the front seats for the 64. We got the 65 seats. We got a full back seat from the 64, but we can't use it in your car. I think the 65's got a full back. The door cards had them. They're missing some from there, so we're kind of... we can look around, see if we can find some, if you really want them. I don't remember the Impala having those, so I can't say one way or the other that those do or don't.
I'm fine without them.
I remember it had cloth inserts, the vinyl surrounds. I remember it had this pattern on the upper part of the seats. I don't remember the medallions. I don't know if they were there and got, knocked off, or if they were there or just never were, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not one of the things I remember from that car. I tell you what, though, I'd really like to find a black and red, maybe a gray intermixed tweed that we could put in there rather than the vinyl, just because it'd be that much more comfortable to sit on. And the Impala had some sort of a cloth insert. It was red, more red than anything else. Just, it kind of upscaled the interior of the car a little bit, made it a little nicer, I thought. And it'd be more comfortable to sit on, but trying to find what I'm looking for is, so far I've had no joy. So we're probably gonna end up just with the vinyl. Unless you want to go back to your original idea, but that might look a little funky as an insert rather than the whole seat cover.
They're nostalgic because your parents, my grandma and grandpa,
Yeah.
they had them a lot, and they put them on their couch, if I remember correctly.
They're used a lot in, rattier old hot rods too. People do that a lot, just put Mexican blankets down over the seats. Or maybe have seat covers made out of them where you can buy them. I don't know, I never went looking for Mexican blanket seat covers.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, if we're gonna go through the effort of trying to stitch up upholstery for this thing, and I don't know how much wastage we're gonna have because just like that fiberglass, we've never done it before. So we're probably gonna fumble the crap out of it a couple of times before we get it even close to acceptable. How much material do we want to waste? And I'm not happy with the twill that we bought. That duck twill is like red, which, don't get me wrong, in the right setting would be awesome. If this was a newer car and we wanted everything to be loud red, like those seat belts and whatnot, and we were going for that look, it'd be a completely different thing. But we're trying to kind of keep the nostalgic feel of the car, and it ain't gonna work in that one.
I guess I'll take the emblems out, or...
Okay. If we do that, we maybe can use them on the door cards where they're missing, and then you don't have to worry about getting scorched by them.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the number we need, if I remember, and we haven't lost any since then. It's just a matter of figuring out how to attach them. It looks like there's studs in those. I don't know what kind of shape they're in. And I don't know where we would source those if we could, and not lose an arm and a leg doing it. So
What?
I had an idea.
Huh.
We'll have to see. You know, we'll have to sit down and draw some stuff up, but we might be able to do some cool stuff with your door cards.
Okay.
So, and keep the theme. We'll see. We'll see. Right now, it's just an idea popped in my head.
What?
Oh, I kissed the box right where we needed to not kiss it. When things move, they moved more than I would really rather they did.
Yeah?
I'm not 100% certain that we're gonna get the flex that we need out of stuff we need to flex. It's looking like the brace for the dash is actually interfering a little bit too now.
Would you like the light turned on?
That one is actually in my way. Turn that one on, it's a problem. So let's take a little bit off of this one horn. We'll minimize the interface and lean more on foam.
I'm cleaning off the back seat here. It had a lot of nooks and crannies, so I spent a good chunk of my day on it.
Get a little closer if you're going to move that fast, kiddo. If you look here, heavy light, heavy light. You want to watch that edge. This doesn't have much of a fan to it, so you're going to have to keep that step a little smaller. You only want about 50% overlap. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Now that we don't really care about the finish so much as just getting something on there that the glue will adhere to.
If you like what we're doing here, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe. Thank you guys, it really helps us out. We then moved on to work on concepts for the console.
So if we do this from just beneath the ridge, okay, I have a question for you, and we might want to throw the seat in here to get the answer. Do you want this to kind of come straight down, or do you want to kind of lean it back? I think on the vet of this era, it came straight down, and then you had kind of a flat panel.
In between, like a slight arc. Looks better.
Well, yeah, we can play with that. I'm trying to figure out how I should cut this to start playing to fit. That's what I'm saying is I think on the vet it came like straight down, otherwise we'd be, granted, I think I kind of came in at an extreme.
Just a slight. I don't know how that works, or if like certain parts
what
need
we
more
want to
space.
do is we want to tape this into position here.
Do we need another cardboard piece, or do we just copy paste?
One side piece will give us what we need, and then we just need to make two mirrored copies out of, if we're going to use wood for our base, then out of wood.
Some impressive artwork, Dad.
Artwork. We want it to be matching this angle for right now, and then we can build out, figure out on the bottom what we need to do on the bottom, because that's going to have to be tight. We don't care about level, we care about matching that angle right there.
Where's a pencil? I need a pencil.
I don't have pencils.
Why
Well,
don't you have
but
pencils?
I don't.
You have a pencil. It's one of those long ones.
We don't need no stinking pencils.
What's up with the rectangular looking squashed pencil? Anyways, what's the deal with those?
The carpenters?
Yeah.
I don't know why they do that like that. But I figure we'll bring it in right about here, so we'll come flat to this, and then let this kind of protrude rather than trying to match this leading edge. I don't think that'd look right if we tried to bring it into here, but if we bring it right to where it naturally kind of lifts up into this lower piece of the dash, if we tie right into that, and then we have a panel wherever we want to go with it, however you want to terminate that. We'll have to build something here to kind of direct the air to the sides and down. You know, we'll build some baffles and then put an opening in the sides here or something. That, or just let it kind of blow out right there, kind of curl it back into the floor, and then have it pushed down into the footwells. You know, where right now it's going to kind of blow right on your ankle instead of down into the footwell. This is protruding a lot farther into the cabin than it was designed to be right now. This should be the firewall. You get what I'm saying? So if we kind of curl this back and then force it out those openings, you know, if we end the console there, and then just force the air back through here, it isn't going to be blowing hard at your feet, but it will be blowing directly at your feet.
It's kind of hard to visualize what you're saying.
Look at the other side. If we terminate it like it is, we don't have to make any changes either side, or we can trim this down farther and shove it in deeper, but then we're going to be having differences on the sides. I mean, we can push that right to the mechanicals and then even the firewall if you want. But how deep do you want to get in under the dash? Do you want it to go to the firewall, or do you want to just terminate it where the dash ends?
Terminate it where the dash ends.
So pretty much right where it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we'll do then is we'll put in baffles here that'll push air down this opening on both sides, where it'll kind of be blowing down into the footwell.
What are baffles? Are those just holes? Or...
Just a shaped piece of something. Now, if this is going to be made out of wood, you know, we'll route and sand a shape similar to this or some kind of a profile, and then put a flat panel on a flat panel, and then inside we'll put some curved sheet metal or something. We'll figure that out when we get there. That's going to take and redirect the air instead of coming back down inside this void cavity where we're just going to have electronics and whatever, right? Or void. We'll push it back to the front of the car and down into the footwells, so it doesn't just sit stagnant warming up your console, because this is going to cover those vents. That's not good, you know. If nothing else, what we'll do is we'll punch the bottom of this, get a hole saw and punch a couple holes, and then have blank these off completely so the air is just right out the bottom, and then put some sort of a something, you know, baffle that pushes or diverts the air from side to side. The idea for this is kind of, this is going to hide this and probably the ignition switch and your USB power. We'll put that in here behind some sort of a door that I have no idea how we're going to build yet. We'll go boneyard hunting for the structure, but as long as we have the frame, we know the shape, and we have that built out, then we can start figuring out where and how to start fitting pieces in.
It might be better just to flint.
You don't want to bring it back to here.
Considering what I might have to do on my own, yeah, I want to make it so I can do it.
Kind of sketch out what you're thinking. I think you're better and stronger than you think you are. But...
yeah.
That's kind of what you're thinking?
Yes, kind of.
So we'll pull that off, see if one of those other chunks of cardboard can make that, just in case you decide you're not in love with that. Does that kind of look like what you're thinking?
I guess, yeah. Is it like this? And then make a plate to put...
Well, we'll have to, you know, shape, but yeah, we'll build a plate into that. Do you want it to protrude like that, or should we... I was thinking we'd cut it back to here, right where this is, and then bring it down?
Yeah.
You want it to stick out like that? Or do you want to cut it back?
Cut it back.
Okay. I wouldn't do it that way. Either cut one at a time or clamp these together and then cut.
Oh, that was not...
Yeah, what was that? What was that?
That was me
Being a goof.
not looking at where I was cutting.
Being a goof.
Thank you. I tried butting this piece up in its position, but it was a little too tall. And then I noticed that Dad made a marking over here, and I'm thinking he was gonna want to cut that, so I'll do that. Okay, that was a bit short. Time to create a new piece. I'll do that. I understand why people need square pencils now. Alright, so I turned the camera off for a little bit, and during that time I kind of graphed out some lines. I thought it would help me out a little bit. During this process, I accidentally cut too much off of the cardboard again, I think on both panels. So instead of wasting more cardboard by cutting a new template, I took slivers I cut off, taped them on to whatever side I needed, and worked with the piece from there. Looking back, I ended up wasting more tape instead. A couple hours and a pile of scrap later, this is my result. It was kind of frustrating because when I tried to get this piece to match this piece was too tall and it wouldn't fit. So I had to make it a little different from this piece. I don't quite understand why I needed to change the shape so much, because you'd think they'd be like symmetrical. I ended up talking to Dad about it, and he said that it's my car and that I could do what I want with it and make the console however I want. And yeah, I just kind of forgot the whole point of this car for a second. That it's not necessarily supposed to be perfect, but something I can learn on. So I guess I'll make a face for this area.
Alright, so there it is, the other panel. That was by far the quickest and easiest one to make. I'm kind of happy with the shape.